Hi guys, so my name is Amber, and for my sexual health paper, I wrote about the topic of bestiality. So my objectives of doing this topic and throughout this PowerPoint, we're going to dive into what bestiality is, which we're going to look at the definitions, case studies, research findings, and the penalties of participating in such activities to expand on the knowledge of this topic. And the intent of presenting this information is about those taboo or uncomfortable topics or conversations that even though we don't like to speak of, we should still know about them. So, what is bestiality? According to our book, bestiality is the action or practice of having sex with non human animals. While there's other terms that can describe basically the same thing, it would be zoophile or zoophilia. More specifically, just shows the sexual gratification derived from fantasies or acts involving animals. So, with the basis of being called a zoophile, it is kind of categorizing those individuals as having sex or wanting to have sex with animals, but they're caring more about the animal's pleasure rather than their own. And with bestiality, from what I've learned, it's individuals more so taking their pleasure higher over the animals. So, again, it's a type of paraphilia involving sexual activity between human and animals. And throughout our book, there is a bunch of other paraphilias. It's just this one kind of caught my eye. And then some individuals can participate in non-sexual zoophilia, which is when they're in love with animals but don't partake in sexual activity at all. So here's some research findings. On the left, we do have some photos dating back to as early as 40,000 years ago of pictures of like humans having sex with animals. So there's references in the Bibles of men not having sex with animals. The quote is, "You shall not lie with no animal whatever and defile yourself. Neither shall a woman stand before an animal to commit lewdness with it. It is perversion." Bestiality was recorded in Egyptian hieroglyphics in 3000 BC, as well as themes in ancient Greek and Roman mythology. So some interesting facts that I found before we get into the actual research was that in 9 states, still bestiality is legal. So those states are Hawaii, Kentucky, Nevada, New Mexico, Ohio, Texas, Vermont, West Virginia, and Wyoming, and also the District of Columbia. But in 3 of those states, they're still banning the marriage between same-sex couples. And I'm not sure as to why I find that extremely interesting, but it's just strange to me that you can have sex with an animal, but you can't get married to a person of the same gender, but that's just my opinion. So getting into the research, there was one man who was an American sexologist and biologist, as well as a professor of entomology and zoology, Alfred Kinsey. I wrote about him a lot in my paper, but basically in 1948, he made a note after doing a study that half of the population of Americans were farm-bred males who had claimed to have had sexual encounters with various species of farm animals. And then many stated that they were embarrassed of their actions of bestiality and then now have converted to non-sexual zoophiles just so they could go about their like day-to-day basis. So again, the non-sexual is them having an attraction towards animals but not partaking in sexual activities. So there was this other study that I found after doing research after my paper, and it's called the Maletsky study. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It happened in 2002. So the sample size was 82 male and 11 female, and all the volunteers reported at least one sexual contact with an animal in their life. So they were asked a series of questions, and then they went about taking the percentages of those questions, and then here are the results. So 87% of men and 91% of women reported an emotional and psychological attraction towards animals, but this is where they didn't partake in those fantasies. So 74% of men, 61% of women reported that they have had sex with animals to express their love and affection for them. So those people would be mainly like zoophiles, the one that care more about their pleasure. So 76% of men, 45% of women reported that they have always fantasized about sex with animals. So again, that's not really a bestiality category. That's them categorizing themselves as zoophiles. 58% of men, 27% of women reported that they were more attracted to animals than humans. That again is a zoophile, not really bestiality, because bestiality is again the action of partaking in those sexual activities. So Maletsky classified these participants as zoosexuals due to the criteria met fitting the idea of being a new sexual orientation. So whether we agree to that or not, Maletsky felt like we should be adding these people to a new sexual orientation listing. So another thing I wanted to go over was the penalties that can be. This was a chart that I found between 1975 and 2015. So it's basically, so going from the top left, 74.6% involved in direct sexual abuse of an animal, and this is over the rate of 456 arrests for bestiality related crimes. So the other half of that percentage was involved in animal pornography. So in more cases, if you were directly involved, you would get more charged with bestiality. And then if it was just animal pornography, you would not have been charged. But if you look at this chart, some people do get jail time, probation, suspended. They go to mental health facilities. There are plea bargains, some of which, if you go all the way down to the bottom, 1.1% were deported. I'm not really sure the legality behind that. And then all the way to the right, it does say like bestiality ignored, no charges were filed. And then 2.9% on the bottom, convictions were appealed, and 5% offenders ordered to get mental health counseling or treatment. So a lot of individuals that do get caught with this are sent to like mental health facilities or counseling for help. Whether that is the best case scenario or anything is up for everyone else's opinion. But so for the suggestions of improvement, I wasn't really sure what to put here, but I said that I think a lot of people do not know or are not educated on what bestiality is or what zoophilia is, and more research should be easily found on these topics because trying to find information online was kind of difficult. So a lot of individuals argue that if farmers are allowed to assist in sexual stimulation of their animals to help with increase its fertility, then are individuals who have sex with them for other reasons doing anything wrong? So basically, that was an argument that a lot of zoophiles have against farmers due to the fact that they believe that they are like caring for their animals, that they aren't abusing them. Um, so that's just like a final thing I wanted to leave you guys with. And my last statement was, while this question can only be answered on a person-to-person basis, I believe that a lot of individuals express interest in sexually gratifying activities that a lot of others wouldn't agree with, but accept. So why isn't zoophilia one of those? So if you guys want to like leave a comment or anything about what your stance is on it, I would love to hear it. I'm not really sure what my opinion is on it just because of how broad this topic is, but I would love to hear if you guys have to say anything. And yeah, that is it. Thank you so much.